I wasn't supposed to find the folder. That's the part that still gets me. If Diane had simply stayed home that morning, if she had watched my mother for 3 hours while I went to a hospital appointment I desperately needed, I never would have opened that drawer. I never would have seen the attorney's letterhead. I never would have understood why my 82-year-old mother had been afraid to look me in the eye for months. But Diane refused. "She's your mother," she said, not even glancing up from her phone. "Handle it yourself." So I canceled my appointment. I stayed home. And because I stayed home, my mother finally told me the truth. There were papers, she whispered. Papers Diane made her sign when I wasn't there. Papers she couldn't remember. Papers that scared her. That afternoon, while my wife was at a lunch she couldn't reschedule, I searched the house. What I found wasn't carelessness. It was a plan. And by the time Diane came home that evening, I understood exactly why she had never wanted me around during the day. The next morning, she called me 27 times. I didn't answer once. Before I take you back to how all of this started, tell me the time and where you're watching from. I always love seeing how far my stories travel. Consider liking and subscribing, but only if you like what I do here. Now, let me walk you back a bit. My name is Raymond. I'm 61 years old. I've been married to Diane for 26 years, longer than some people stay alive. We met at a conference in Portland when I was 34, both of us slightly lost, both of us pretending we weren't. She laughed at my worst jokes. I thought that meant something. Maybe it did, back then. My mother moved in with us 2 years ago, right after my father passed. Lung cancer, fast and brutal. 1 month he was complaining about a cough, the next month we were choosing urns. Mom couldn't stay alone in that house. Too many echoes, too many chairs that faced the wrong direction now. Diane agreed to the arrangement. Of course she should come, she said. She's family. Family. Funny how that word can change temperature. At first, things felt manageable. My mother kept to herself mostly. She read in the guest room, walked slowly through the garden, and thanked Diane for every meal like she was a guest at a hotel she couldn't afford. Diane smiled through it. Tight, brief smiles that I mistook for patience. But somewhere along the way, I can't pinpoint exactly when, the smiles stopped reaching her eyes. And I didn't notice. That's the part I keep circling back to. How much I didn't notice. The morning it all started, I woke up at 5:47 a.m. with a dull ache in my chest that I'd been ignoring for weeks. I'm not one of those men who avoids doctors. I've had my share of checkups, my share of scares, but this was different, persistent, a tightness that came and went like an uninvited guest who keeps forgetting to leave. My physician had scheduled me for additional testing, cardiology, blood work, stress monitoring. The appointment was at 9 a.m. I had waited 3 weeks to get it. 3 weeks of waking up wondering if today was the day the tightness didn't let go. I showered early, dressed quietly. My mother was still asleep down the hall. She slept late most mornings now, her body demanding rest her mind sometimes fought against. I walked into the kitchen expecting to find Diane already awake. She was. Coffee in hand, phone in the other, eyes fixed on the screen. "Morning," I said. She nodded without looking up. "I have that appointment today. Cardiology follow-up, remember?" She made a small sound. Acknowledgement maybe, or just air. "I should be back before noon. I just need you to stay with Mom while I'm gone." That's when she looked up. Not with concern, not with the softness I might have expected from a woman who had slept beside me for over 2 decades. She looked at me the way you look at a delivery person who shows up at the wrong address. "I have plans," she said flatly. "Plans?" "Brunch, with Celia and the group. We'd had it scheduled for 2 weeks. I stared at her. "Diane, this is a cardiology appointment. I've been waiting." "Then reschedule." "I can't just reschedule. There's a wait list, and the symptoms—" "Raymond." She set her mug down with a soft clink. "She's your mother, not mine. I agreed to let her live here. I didn't agree to become her full-time caretaker." Let her live here. As if my mother were a stray we'd taken in. "I'm asking for 3 hours," I said quietly. "Maybe less." Diane picked up her phone again. "Handle it yourself." 3 words, delivered without hesitation, without guilt, without the faintest crack in her composure. I stood there longer than I should have, waiting for something to shift. A softening, an apology, even a sigh of reluctant agreement. Nothing came. So I pulled out my phone and canceled the appointment. The receptionist sounded apologetic. The next available slot was 5 weeks out. 5 weeks. I hung up and looked at the chair where Diane had been sitting. She was already gone. I heard the shower running upstairs. Something tightened in my chest again. But this time, I wasn't sure it was my heart. I made my mother breakfast that morning.
Scrambled eggs, soft toast, a cup of tea with too much honey, the way she liked it. She sat at the kitchen table slowly, her hands folded in her lap. She had good days and hard days. Some mornings she remembered everything, names, dates, conversations from decades ago. Other mornings she asked me where my father was and I had to tell her again. Today, her eyes were clear. Too clear. She watched me move around the kitchen without speaking. When I set the plate in front of her, she didn't touch it. "You didn't go," she said quietly. "No," I sat across from her. "I stayed. Because of me. Because I wanted to." She looked at me for a long moment, her lips pressed together, then parted slightly, like she was deciding whether to speak. I've seen that look before, on witnesses in courtrooms, on patients before diagnoses. The look of someone holding something heavy. "Mom, what is it?" She glanced toward the hallway, toward the stairs, toward wherever Diane might be. "She makes me sign things," she whispered. I didn't move. "What things?" Her hands trembled slightly. "Papers. I don't understand them. She brings them when you're at the store or at the doctor. She sits beside me and points where to sign." The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. "How many times has this happened?" She shook her head slowly. "I lose count. Maybe 5, maybe more." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what they were. She said it was for my own good. She said not to worry you." I reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was thin, cool. She gripped me harder than I thought she still could. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked gently. Her eyes filled. "Because I wasn't sure I remembered it right. Some days I don't trust my own mind. But today I'm certain, and I didn't want to die with it still inside me." I felt a coldness settle into the center of my chest, different from the tightness I'd been carrying for weeks. This was sharper, more deliberate. "You're not going to die," I said. She smiled faintly. "We're all going to die, sweetheart. I'd just like to do it without secrets." I squeezed her hand. Upstairs, the shower turned off. I heard Diane's footsteps moving across the bedroom floor. "Don't say anything," my mother whispered quickly. "Please, not yet." I nodded slowly, but something inside me had already shifted. Type, "I felt that" in the comments if you've ever watched someone you love become a target. Because that's exactly what I was looking at. My mother, 82 years old, trusting, vulnerable, had become someone else's opportunity. And I had no idea how deep it went. I heard the garage door close at 9:17 a.m. I sat there for a full minute, then another. My mother's hand still in mine. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. There's a specific kind of silence that settles over a house when you know you are about to do something you cannot undo. This was that silence. Mom looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but steady. "Be careful," she said again, softer this time. I nodded. Then I got up. I didn't tear the house apart. I didn't ransack drawers or flip through her purse or try to crack her laptop password. I've been married to this woman for 26 years. I know where she hides things. Not because I ever went looking, because when you live with someone that long, you absorb their patterns without even trying. Bottom drawer of her dresser, all the way in the back, under a stack of wool sweaters she hasn't touched since we moved into this house. That's where I found it. Plain manila folder, no label, heavier than it looked. I carried it to the kitchen, sat down at the same table where I had made my mother breakfast, opened it. First page, letterhead, Elder Law Associates, intake form dated 8 months ago. Client, Diane Carter. Matter, temporary guardianship application, competency evaluation. I read it again, slower this time. Then I turned the page, and the next, and the next. Observation logs, dates, times, incidents, all written in Diane's neat handwriting. 10:12, forgot how to operate microwave, stared at buttons for several minutes. 11:3, could not recall grandson's name when asked directly. 11:17, found wandering outside at 2 a.m., disoriented, did not recognize front door. I stopped on that one. November 17th, I remembered that night. I was up until past 3 watching a football game I didn't even care about. My mother was asleep by 9. She never left her room, not once. Diane made that up. She just wrote it down like it was fact. I kept going. Referral forms, evaluation requests, a draft petition for emergency guardianship, and at the very bottom, one handwritten note in the margin. Proceed quietly. Do not inform son until all filings are complete. I closed the folder. I sat there for a long time just staring at the wall. 26 years, funerals, vacations, thousands of ordinary mornings where nothing happened at all. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew every corner of who she was. And all that time, she had this folder in a drawer. Nobody warns you about betrayal. They make it sound loud, dramatic, full of broken dishes and shouting. But it's not. It's paper, it's ink, it's someone's handwriting describing things that never happened. And I still had no idea how deep this went.
I got up, poured myself a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink, staring out at the backyard. My hands weren't shaking. I kept waiting for them to shake. They didn't. I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter, logged into my mother's bank account, the one I set up for her pension 2 years ago when she moved in, the one I had not actually looked at in almost a year. I told myself I was busy. I told myself I trusted Diane. Mostly, I told myself that checking would feel like paranoia, and I was too old to be paranoid. First transfer, 11 months ago, $1,217 exactly, the full amount of her pension that month. I scrolled down. Next month, same amount, same destination, an account number I didn't recognize. Month after that, same thing. Every single month for almost a year, without exception, her entire pension gone. I sat down slowly. Then I saw the withdrawal from 2 weeks ago, $4,800, single transaction, merchant name, Silver Pines Memory Care, description, reservation fee, Unit 14B, ground floor, west facing, move-in date, Friday, 3 days from now. I closed my eyes. If I had gone to that cardiology appointment this morning, if she had just agreed to stay with my mother for 3 hours, I would have come home around noon, and my mother would have been gone. Diane would have met me at the door with that calm, patient expression she uses when she's already decided something. She would have told me it was time, that Mom needed more help than we could give, that she had found a wonderful facility, that it was all taken care of. And I would have believed her. I would have nodded. I would have said, "You're right." I would have thanked her for handling something I was too weak to handle myself. Moments like this are exactly why I pay attention now. The people closest to you can hide the most. Staying aware isn't paranoia, it's protection. I looked down the hall. My mother was sitting in the armchair by the window, reading the same paperback Western she's read 4 times, completely unaware that someone had already picked out her room, already paid the deposit, already set a date. I thought about all the times Diane had encouraged me to leave the house, go golfing, go meet your friends, take a drive. I've got Mom. Every single one of those afternoons, she was building her case, and I had smiled and thanked her for it. I sat at that kitchen table for almost 2 hours. I didn't call anyone. I didn't text anyone. I just stared at the folder and the laptop screen and put the pieces together, one by one, very slowly, like assembling a puzzle I never wanted to see completed. This wasn't a bad day. This wasn't stress. This wasn't exhaustion or resentment boiling over. This was a project, a year-long project with research and documentation and financial planning. She had meetings with attorneys. She opened accounts I didn't know about. She fabricated incidents that never happened. She picked out a facility. She paid a deposit. All while eating dinner across from me every single night. All while asking how my day was. All while sleeping beside me in the same bed we've shared for 2 decades. That's the part that kept circling back. Not the money, not the lies, the smiling, the ordinary, everyday smiling. I had mistaken calculation for patience. I had mistaken cruelty for kindness. I had watched her help my mother to bed each night and thought she was being generous. She was documenting. And the worst part, the part I couldn't stop thinking about, if she had just waited 3 more days, if she had swallowed her irritation for 72 more hours and driven me to that appointment herself, I never would have found any of this. The hearing would have happened. The court would have approved it. My mother would be in that facility right now, and I would have believed it was the right thing. That's the thing about people who plan things like this. They don't make big, dramatic mistakes. They don't yell. They don't threaten. They make one tiny, careless, arrogant mistake. They tell you to handle it yourself. She was so used to me absorbing things, so used to me smoothing things over, she forgot that I might actually do what she told me to do. If you've ever discovered that someone you trusted was building something behind your back, you already understand why people subscribe to stories like this. I looked at the clock. She would be home in less than an hour. I could confront her right now, throw the folder on the table, demand explanations, watch her face as she realizes she's been caught. But something told me that was exactly what she expected. She had prepared for anger. She had rehearsed her defenses. She had responses ready for every accusation I could possibly make. She had not prepared for silence. She had not prepared for me to say nothing at all, to smile at dinner, to act like everything was fine, and to spend the next 24 hours dismantling every single thing she had built. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts, found the name of an attorney a colleague had recommended 7 years ago, back when I thought I'd never need it. I pressed call. By the time her car pulled into the driveway that evening, the game had already changed. She just didn't know it yet.
The attorney answered on the third ring. His name was Victor Hale. I had never met him, never spoken to him. A colleague had given me his card 7 years ago after his own divorce turned ugly. I remember putting the card in my wallet and thinking I would never need it. I told him everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't interrupt myself with emotion. I just laid out the facts, the folder, the forged observations, the pension transfers, the facility deposit, the move-in date, 3 days from now. He listened without speaking. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," he said finally. "First thing, you do not confront her tonight. You do not raise your voice. You do not give her any indication that anything is wrong. She has spent a year building this. You have had a few hours. If you go in angry, you lose." I understood. He walked me through it step by step. Freeze the pension account immediately. File an emergency motion to cancel the guardianship hearing. Contact the facility and revoke the reservation. Request an independent cognitive evaluation from a physician of my choosing. Document everything. Photograph every page of that folder. Save every bank statement. Create a timeline. "Most men in your position make noise," he said. "They yell, they threaten, they give everything away in the first 5 minutes. Don't be most men." I thanked him. I hung up. I sat there for another minute just breathing. Then I got to work. I photographed every single page of the folder, both sides. I saved the images to a cloud account Diane didn't know existed. I logged back into the pension account and initiated a freeze. I called Silver Pines and told them the reservation was canceled. The woman on the phone sounded confused but didn't argue. Then I put the folder back, exactly where I found it, bottom drawer, under the sweaters. I smoothed the fabric over it and closed the drawer. Diane came home just after 6. I heard her keys in the door. I was sitting in the living room reading a magazine I hadn't absorbed a single word of. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag on the counter. "Hey, how was your day?" Quiet. "Your mom okay?" "She's fine, napping." Diane nodded. She poured herself a glass of wine. She sat down across from me and turned on the television. Same routine as always, same sounds, same silence. I watched her face in the glow of the screen. 26 years, and I had no idea who she was. We ate dinner together that night. Pasta, salad, small talk about nothing. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I nodded when I was supposed to nod. I gave her absolutely nothing to suspect. What happened the next morning made me realize I had never truly known her at all. She left the house at 8:43 the next morning. Hair salon appointment, 2 hours minimum. She kissed me on the cheek on her way out. I smiled and told her to enjoy herself. The moment her car disappeared around the corner, I was already moving. I drove to the bank first, 40 minutes. The manager didn't ask questions. She just looked at the paperwork, looked at me, and processed the request. The pension account was now frozen. All existing authorizations revoked. Any further transfers would require my signature. Then I called the courthouse, filed the emergency motion. The clerk said the guardianship hearing was officially canceled, pending review. Then I called Victor. He confirmed everything was in place. He told me to stay calm. He told me to let her come to me. I got home at 11:52 a.m. Diane was already there. She was sitting at the kitchen table, phone face down, coffee untouched. She didn't look up when I walked in. "What did you do?" It wasn't a question. I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down slowly. I canceled the hearing. She went very still. "You went through my things." "Yes." "You had every right. That's my mother you were trying to put away." Something shifted in her face. The composure cracked, just a little, just enough. "You're overreacting," she said. Her voice climbed half an octave. "You were doing this for all of us. She's a burden. You're too sentimental to see it. Someone had to make the hard decision." I didn't respond. I just reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a single photograph, the handwritten note from the folder. I slid it across the table. "Proceed quietly. Do not inform son until all filings are complete." She stared at it. "I read every page," I said quietly. "Every fake incident report, every forged observation. November 17th, you wrote that she wandered outside at 2 a.m. I was awake that night. She never left her room." Her mouth opened, then closed. I saw the bank transfers, 11 months of her pension. I saw the facility deposit. I saw the move-in date. Silence. "You were 3 days away," I said. 3 days from sending my mother to a memory care facility she doesn't need. 3 days from taking control of her finances. 3 days from making her disappear while I sat in a cardiology waiting room. Diane's hands were shaking now. I had never seen her hands shake. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then explain it to me." She didn't answer. She just stared at the photograph like it might burst into flames if she looked at it long enough. For the first time in 26 years, I saw her afraid. And I still didn't raise my voice. She left the house 53 minutes later. She didn't pack a bag, she didn't take extra clothes. She just grabbed her purse, her keys, and walked out the door. She didn't slam it. She closed it quietly, like someone leaving a hospital room. Then the calls started. 1:04 p.m., call 1. 1:11 p.m., call 2. 1:23 p.m., call 3. I let the phone sit on the kitchen table. I watched her name light up the screen over and over. I didn't silence it. I didn't turn it off. I just let it ring. By 4 p.m., there were 19 missed calls. By 7 p.m., there were 27. Type "I know that silence" if you've ever reached the point where you had nothing left to say. My mother and I sat on the back porch that afternoon. We didn't talk about Diane, we didn't talk about the folder or the hearing or the facility with the west-facing room. We just sat there. She held my hand. We watched the birds land on the feeder I had built 3 summers ago. "Thank you," she said eventually, very quiet. I didn't answer. I just squeezed her hand. The voicemails started around 3 p.m. The first few were controlled, measured, the Diane I had known for 2 decades. "Raymond, we need to talk about this like adults. Raymond, you're making a mistake. Raymond, call me back." By the 7th voicemail, the control was gone. "I don't understand why you're doing this. I was trying to help. You never listen. You never understood how hard this has been for me." I saved every single one. Victor called at 8 p.m. He had reviewed the documents I sent, the forged observations, the unauthorized transfers, the deposit made without my knowledge or consent. "You have a strong case," he said. "For financial exploitation of an elderly person, possibly fraud, definitely grounds for separation of assets and protective orders." I listened. I wrote everything down. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I looked down the hall toward my mother's room. Her light was off. She was asleep, safe, in her own home, in the room she had chosen for herself 2 years ago. "I want her protected," I said, "legally, permanently, whatever that takes. Then we file tomorrow." I hung up. The house was quiet. The phone had finally stopped ringing. I knew this wasn't over. There would be attorneys, mediations, arguments about assets and intentions and who said what to whom, all the ugly machinery that grinds into motion when a marriage collapses. But that night, for the first time in longer than I could remember, my mother slept through until morning. And for the first time in 26 years, I didn't lie awake wondering what I was missing. I already knew.
3 weeks passed. The paperwork moved faster than I expected. Victor filed the protective order on a Tuesday morning. By Thursday afternoon, a judge had signed it. My mother's pension was restored. Her accounts were locked under my sole authorization. The guardianship petition was formally dismissed with prejudice. Diane's attorney sent a letter requesting mediation. I read it once, then handed it to Victor. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to hear what she has to say." So we scheduled it. Neutral location, conference room downtown, 4 chairs, 1 table, no windows. I arrived 15 minutes early. Diane arrived exactly on time. She looked thinner, older. She sat down across from me and folded her hands on the table. She didn't look at me directly, not at first. Her attorney spoke first. Something about misunderstandings, something about stress and caregiver burnout and decisions made under pressure. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I looked at Diane. "Is that what happened?" I asked quietly. "Stress?" She finally met my eyes. "You don't know what it was like," she said. "Every single day, watching her, waiting for something to go wrong. You got to leave. You got to go golfing, go to appointments, go anywhere you wanted. I was trapped in that house with her." I let her finish. "So you forged documents," I said. "You stole her pension. You booked a facility without telling me. You were 3 days away from making my mother disappear. I was trying to fix something you refused to see. By lying to me for a year." She looked away. The room was very quiet. I could hear the air conditioning humming through the vents. I could hear her attorney shifting in his chair. "I want to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth, just once." She waited. "Did you ever actually care about her, even a little?" Diane's jaw tightened. Her eyes filled, but she didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Victor leaned forward. "My client is prepared to offer the following terms: full separation of assets, no claim to Mrs. Carter's estate or pension, no contact with Mrs. Carter without Raymond's written consent. In exchange, we do not pursue criminal charges for elder financial exploitation." Diane's attorney whispered something to her. She shook her head once, then again. "I'm not signing that," she said. "Then we go to court," Victor replied calmly. "And we present the forged observation logs, the unauthorized transfers, the handwritten note instructing your attorney to proceed without informing your husband. A judge will see it, all of it." Diane's face went pale. "You would do that to me?" she asked. "After 26 years?" I looked at her for a long time. 26 years. I thought about the woman I married, the one who laughed at my worst jokes in that conference room in Portland, the one who held my hand at my father's funeral, the one who told me again and again that we were partners. I thought about my mother, 82 years old, sitting in her armchair by the window, trusting me to protect her. I thought about the folder in the dresser drawer, the neat handwriting, the fabricated incidents, the deposit for a room she would never see. "You did this to yourself," I said quietly. Diane stared at me. Her attorney cleared his throat. Victor waited. The conference room was silent. Everyone was watching me, waiting for what I would say next. And right now, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked myself in that room. If you were me, after 26 years of marriage, after everything you built together, after finding out the person you trusted most was planning to erase your mother from your life, what would you do? Would you take the deal, walk away clean, let her keep her dignity in exchange for your mother's safety? Or would you go to court, show the world exactly what she did, make sure everyone knows the truth, even if it burns everything down? I sat there in that conference room, my attorney on one side, my wife of 26 years on the other, and I opened my mouth to give my answer. But that's a story for another time. Tell me which part of this stayed with you the longest. Tell me what you would have done, and let me know where you're watching from. I read every single comment. If you want more stories like this, you already know what to do. And if you think this is where it ends, it's not. There's another story waiting that will make this one feel even heavier. Click the video on your screen. I'll meet you there.